Part 1.
You will hear a conversation between a customer and a tour guide. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 10. Good morning. I've heard that you offer walking tours of the city.
Yes, we do. We have 4 walks. Did you have any particular one in mind?
Not really. Actually, I don't know anything about your tours. Could you...
Of course. Here's our leaflet. Let me take you through it. Our main walk is a comprehensive one of the city centre, lasting a whole afternoon. It is quite long, but takes you to all the main sites and a few lesser-known ones. As you can see, we take in the castle, the cathedral, the historic houses along the riverside, and the city gate. Halfway through, we stop at the oldest pub in the city, the Cat and Dog, for refreshments.
That looks very interesting. I see you have a walk that just takes in the castle.
Yes, it spends more time examining the castle and its history. The first tour I mentioned visits the castle briefly, but this one includes visits to all the exhibits there and a longer walk along the castle wall.
I heard something about... yes, there it is, the ghost walk in the evening.
Ah, yes. This is a very popular tour. You'll need to book ahead for this one. The tour starts here at 8 p.m. every evening except Mondays and finishes here at about 2 hours later.
Which places are visited on the walk?
Well, again, we take people to the castle and to the cathedral, but we don't go inside. At the cathedral, we see a few tombs and tell people some pretty grisly stories.
Is the walk suitable for children?
Not really. Actually, all 4 of our walks are really for adults, or at least older children.
And the 4th walk is...
Well, it follows the life and times of Robert Jones, the famous Victorian writer who was born here and lived here most of his life. We take people to see where he was born, educated and lived. This tour is popular with people interested in Victorian architecture, as much as with people interested in literature.
I see. Now, prices. They're not listed here in the brochure.
Prices depend on the season and the number of people you make a booking for.
We'd be interested in taking a tour sometime next week, midweek, and we are a small group of 6 people.
OK, there's a small discount for groups of 5 to 10 people. The full price for the City Sights tour is £10 per person. The Castle tour is £7. The Ghost Walk is also £7 and the Robert Jones Walk is £8. The discount is 5% off the total fee.
Thank you.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions.
And what time do the tours start? You said the Ghost Walk starts at 8 p.m?
Yes, the City Sights one starts at 1 p.m. and finishes at 6 p.m. The Castle tour starts at 9 a.m. and finishes at midday. The Robert Jones Walk starts at 2 p.m. and finishes at 5 p.m.
The Ghost Walk is not on Mondays. How about the other walks?
The same. Our office is open on Mondays for booking walks, but there are no tours that day.
I see. Thank you very much. I see you have a website.
Yes, www.walknewtown.com. Walk New Town is written as one word. It has up-to-date information, and you can also see the exact routes we take and the timings.
Sorry?
The timings, how long we spend at each location.
Oh, I see. Thank you.
That is the end of part 1.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 2. Part 2.
You will hear a presentation on tips about managing money. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 20. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 20. Welcome everyone. My name is Derek Palmer and I'm here to give you some tips about managing your money. It is worth making a little effort to keep your financial affairs in good shape. Keep your money under control and you can concentrate on the real business of studying and living here. Here are 2 basic tips for managing your finances. First, make full use of banking facilities. Once you have opened a bank account, you can ask the bank's financial advisors to help you decide how to manage your money. You can use your bank account to pay your regular bills, such as electricity, gas and telephone by direct debit or by standing order, on a regular basis. The financial advisors can help you to organize a budget account to pay regular bills or help you to deal with any periods when you might need an overdraft facility. If you have a financial sponsor, make sure you find out from them exactly when the money will become available to you and how much there will be. You can also use checks to pay for goods and services. With banking becoming organized more and more on an international basis, you may also find that you can use the cash card you have in your own country to draw money from your home account while you are here. Cards carrying signs such as Cirrus or Maestro may have this facility. Ask your home bank about this before you leave to ensure that you bring the right cards with you. Second, deal with financial problems promptly. Monitor your account in the UK carefully and make sure you do not overdraw. Or, if you have arranged an overdraft, make sure you do not go over the amount you agreed with the bank. If you do run into any money problems, take the initiative and sort them out quickly. Do not risk going into debt or falling behind with your rent. Problems may arise. For example, if there is a sudden change in the political situation in your country, if there are unexpected delays in transferring your money, or if your personal circumstances change. For example, your accommodation arrangements, your marital status. In these situations, do not be tempted to borrow money. Instead, get advice from a reliable source. Start by meeting with the student counsellor at your college or university. He or she can tell you what to do about paying your tuition fees, and whether there are any college funds or charitable trusts that might be able to help you. If you are building up debts on credit cards or rent arrears, debt counselling may be available at your institution. If the problems are caused by political situations or changes in foreign exchange, ask your embassy for advice.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions.
Let's turn to insurance. During your stay, there are 3 types of insurance that you might need. The first is personal property insurance, to cover your possessions against damage or theft. If possible, try to arrange this in your own country before you come to the UK. The second is medical insurance, to cover your medical bills. You may prefer to arrange this in advance. The third is motor insurance. You must have this if you want to drive a car or ride a motorcycle here. For each type, there are many different insurance policies available, so look around until you find one that meets your needs, including your budget. You will find a range of insurance companies listed in your local telephone directory, and your bank or building society may also be able to offer you an insurance policy. Many insurance companies have special policies for students. Ask the welfare advisor at your college or university for advice. Make sure that you understand all the conditions before you agree to a policy. When you are considering a particular policy, ask yourself some questions. What will be paid out to me when I make a claim? Some personal property insurance policies, for example, only pay you the second-hand value of your lost possessions. New for old policies will pay you the full cost of replacing the item, but they tend to be more expensive. Are there any conditions attached to the policy? Some medical insurance policies will not cover you for pre-existing medical conditions. That is, conditions you already have when you take out the policy. Some personal property policies may not cover your possessions if they are taken away from the place where they are normally kept. For example, if you take your CD player to a friend's house, are there any exceptions to the policy? For example, a medical insurance policy may not cover you if you play a dangerous sport. Now let's look at...
That is the end of part 2.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turn to section 3. Section 3. You will hear a conversation between a librarian and an education student. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 27. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 27.
Good afternoon. Can I help you?
Good afternoon. Yes, I've just transferred to the School of Education, and I'd like information about joining the library.
Well, the School of Education has libraries on 2 sites, as I'm sure you know. This one here is the Fordham site, and the other is on Castle Road.
And is there any difference between the 2 libraries?
Not in terms of their facilities. Access to online databases and the internet is available at both sites, and each site has a range of reference materials on education.
Oh, yes, I see.
But the Castle Road site has books on the sociology of education and a collection of textbooks and teaching resources covering most of the subjects taught in secondary schools.
Ah, right. But I'm training to be a primary teacher, so I need to look at materials for the 5 to 11 age group.
Then you've come to the right place. At Fordham, we hold material relating to primary education, as well as special needs. But, of course, you will need to familiarise yourself with both sites to make the most of our resources.
You haven't mentioned periodicals. Are they held at both sites?
Current issues, yes, but if you want to look at back issues, you'll need to use the CD-ROM databases, which are held here at Fordham.
I see. Now, about borrowing books, I'm living out of town, so I'm hoping I can borrow quite a few items and cut down on the number of trips I have to make.
Right, well, members can borrow 2 books at a time from each site.
Only 2 books?
Only 2 from each site, but that's 4 altogether.
Oh, I see. And how long can I hang on to them for?
The borrowing period is 1 month, but of course books can be renewed. You can renew any item a maximum of 3 times.
Do I have to come to the library to do that?
No, you can do it by telephone or email, but you can't renew overdue books this way, only before or on the due date stamped in the book. We'll need your full name, your borrower number, and the name of the site library you borrowed the items from.
So, theoretically, I can borrow books for up to 3 months. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, provided they're not recalled.
So, what happens then?
Well, sometimes an item is requested by another borrower, in which case we'd send you a letter, and you'd have to return the book within 7 working days. Don't forget, we're closed on Sundays.
Okay.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 28 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 28 to 30.
I expect it'll take me a while to find what I need. There's such a lot here.
Yes, there is. But if you need help getting started, this term we're running 3 study skills workshops.
Oh? What are they on?
Let me see. The first one's on resources. Yes, here it is. How to use the library's resources. That includes everything, not just the print and technical resources.
That sounds useful. Is there anything on using the internet?
Let's see. The one on the internet for beginners was last term. This term it's finding research materials online.
That sounds interesting too. What's the last one?
It's a workshop on dissertations.
What do you mean? How to write one?
No, it's more to do with academic writing conventions. You know, writing a bibliography and how to refer to sources in your text, that sort of thing. Anyway, here's a leaflet with information about all 3.
Oh, thanks a lot. That'll be very useful.
You're welcome.
That is the end of section 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 4. Section 4. You will hear part of a lecture given by a conservationist on the subject of lions. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Well, most people think that lions only come from Africa. And you would be forgiven for thinking this because, in fact, most lions do come from Africa. But this hasn't always been the case. If we go back 10,000 years, we would find that there were lions roaming vast sections of the globe. But now, unfortunately, only very small sections of the lion's former habitat remain. My particular interest is Asiatic lions, which are a subspecies of African lions. It's almost 100,000 years since the Asiatic lion split off and developed as a subspecies. At one time, the Asiatic lion was living as far west as Greece, and they were found from there in a band that spread east through various countries of the Middle East, all the way to India. In In museums, you can now see Greek coins that have clear images of the Asiatic lion on them. Most of them are dated at around 500 BC. However, Europe saw its last Asiatic lion roaming free 2,000 years ago. Over the next 1900 years, the numbers of Asiatic lions in the other areas declined steadily. But it was only in the 19th century that they disappeared from everywhere but India. So, how can you tell an Asiatic lion from an African lion, with which you're probably more familiar? Well, in general, Asiatic lions are not as big as African lions. The colour is more or less the same, but the appearance of the mane is different. That's the hair around the lion's face and neck. The Asiatic lion's mane is noticeably shorter than the African lion's. Asiatic lions also have a long fold of skin on their undersides, whereas not many African lions have this. Well, I'd like to talk to you now about the Gir Sanctuary in India. That's where I've just come back from. The sanctuary was established specifically to protect the Asiatic lion. It's 1,450 square kilometers in area, and most of it is forest. There are now around 300 Asiatic lions in India, and almost all of them are in this sanctuary. But despite living in a sanctuary, which makes them safe from hunters, they still face a number of problems that threaten their survival. One of these is the ever-present danger of disease. This is what killed more than a third of Africa's Serengeti lions in 1994, and people are fearful that something similar could happen in the Gir Sanctuary and kill off many of the Asiatic lions there. India's lions are particularly vulnerable because they have a limited gene pool. The reason for this is interesting. It's because all of them are descended from a few dozen lions that were saved by a prince who took a particular interest in them. He was very wealthy, and he managed to protect them. Otherwise, they'd probably have died out completely. When you see the Asiatic lion in India, what you sense is enormous vitality. They're very impressive beasts, and you would never guess that they had this vulnerability when you look at them. The Asiatic lions don't have the Gir Sanctuary to themselves, I should add. They actually share it with about 2,000 farmers. A significant proportion of the lion's diet is made up of the livestock of these farmers, goats, chickens, and so on, as much as a third, in fact. And they've even been known to attack humans, especially in times of drought. One final piece of interesting information. In ancient India, one of the greatest tests of leadership for a man was to fight a lion. Now, it seems, in modern India, it will be a great test to see if the lion can be saved. I'm sure this is something that all of you will share concern for too.
That is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers.